So today I have a review for Justice League Dark #1 2018. Disclaimer: I've never read the original Justice League Dark series or even watched the animated movie that came out a couple years back. So I don't really have a whole lot to draw from this series. I just know it's basically like the Justice League magical aspects team division or whatever, you know. Uh, with that being said, this was an okay issue. It did feel like there was some stuff that you kind of needed to know before going in. Like it felt like you kind of needed to read some other stuff. I don't know what the other stuff was. If it was if it was the previous series of Justice League Dark, or was it Dark Middle? I don't know exactly, but it felt like there were some tie-ins. You know, definitely referencing some stuff that happened before. Such as the big thing that was going on in this issue is that magic itself seems to be becoming unstable and extremely dangerous, and even some of the most powerful magic users can't seem to actually control their magic anymore. Like they have the potential to actually kill people and hurt people and even themselves if they cast spells because magic is so unpredictable at the moment, which was kind of a cool aspect. I kind of like that concept. It seemed interesting. Like at the beginning, Zatanna is at a magic show and she's doing a show and she pulls a rabbit out of her hat and something goes wrong and the rabbit's all bloody, and then all of a sudden a giant monster comes out of her hat, and it's like even the simplest spells that you used to be able to do in your sleep are now can be extremely dangerous. It's basically like an explosive. It's going to be very unstable and unpredictable at any moment. But when I hear this storyline, I can't help but think about Marvel and how they've been doing something for the last year or so where, in Doctor Strange's comic, magic has disappeared, and like you can't cast spells anymore. All the magic that's left in the world is connected through objects, so you have to find these objects and kind of carry them around in order to use magic. And I always thought that was kind of cool. And then it seems like DC is like doing something kind of similar where it's like a worldwide magical disbalance issue, and it's kind of cool. So most of this issue is Wonder Woman running around trying to recruit a new Justice League Dark team. She's been given the okay by the powers to be to create a team to try to battle this. And most of the issue is just like everybody saying no to her. Like they all have most of them have their own different reasons, but usually it comes down to the people of the magic community don't really trust the Justice League. They don't really trust they don't want the stigma of like being, fighting the light, because that's what they think the Justice League is. They think the Justice League is like the shiny, squeaky clean fighters of the world, but the magic world is much more complicated. It's much more darker, and they don't think they understand. It essentially comes down to the real big magic players believing that this is an internal issue and they need to deal with it internally. It actually felt very much like kind of like on the news and stuff, how you see that like America's trying to get involved with another country's conflicts or wars or whatever, and the other country doesn't want the help because they need to deal with them. They feel like they need to deal with them themselves. Like it kind of felt like that, like like the Justice League is like it's like this savior trying to come in and help everybody, but they don't really want the help. They want to deal with it themselves. They don't think the Justice League understand what's going on, and they probably don't. But yeah, it was interesting. It was interesting comparisons to draw. I did really like the team. I like the kind of formation of the team in this issue, like the way like the members that seem to be the key players. We see a lot of other magical characters in this issue, but most of them are not going to be. I don't think going to be part of the team. Because it seems like Etrigan the Demon, he's setting up his own kind of like council and group. They're going to try to solve things. You have Swamp Thing you have characters like Swamp Thing and John Constantine that seem to be very on the border. Like they're not really for any of those two characters specifically. Seem like they were just kind of watching the tide and seeing which way which wave they should join. Like seeing like which side had the better options. That was kind of interesting. The Swamp Thing eventually does join the team by the end of the issue, but it was kind of interesting to see that. The art is very gorgeous in this issue. Like I really enjoyed a lot of the panels, especially like there's a lot of panels with fire, and it works very well. Like the fire effect is done very well in this book. Like in this one where Zatanna's dad pops up and he's trying to like warn her or something, and it's like all fiery ghosts of him, and it just looks cool, and it makes for a very intense panel. And But I really do like the team. I really do like the way the team is lined up. You have basically Wonder Woman, who's kind of like the stoic, goody two shoes agent of the Justice League. Savior of all, kind of like famous person. Then you have Zatanna, who's kind of like on the ropes. She's the younger, more like trying to find her place in the world character, who really can't rely on her own powers because of how unpredictable they are. Then you have Detective Chimp, who's kind of like, he's probably the least powerful person on the team, but he's actually like probably one of the craftier people. He has the kind of the perception skill sets and the detective skill sets that you would want on a team. Then you have Swamp Thing, who's pretty powerful. Pretty much, him and Wonder Woman are probably going to be the powerhouses of the team, I would imagine. Then you have Man-Bat, which I thought was a weird idea to have because he's more of a science character. He's created from science. But he works in this story because he's kind of like the outside. He's the outside experience. He's the kind of like, he's the man of science in a room full of men of faith. And I thought it was cool. It was a very good matchup to have. Overall, I did enjoy this book. It was good. Mostly because the art was really good and the story. The action is good. Like once you get to the action, and which doesn't really come to the end of the book, but the action is really good. It's really well done. The stakes are raised up to a pretty high level. But I don't know. I just found that like my biggest problem with the book was there was just so much. There was a lot. It was very dialogue heavy, and some of the dialogue just felt very draggy. Like some of it was good. Like the whole scene, the whole pep talk at the bar was pretty good. But a lot of the just the magic moment jumbo, we're in danger kind of stuff. We need to save the universe. It just felt very kind of forced and kind of bland and just overdone. Like it was just too much talking. You know how some comic books you can just read and then you're done with it really quick and you're like, man, that went by really fast. But you're happy about it because it was such an enjoyable, fun book. Like you know how sometimes you just read a book and then it just flies through. This is not one of those books. I felt every page of this book. I felt every dialogue bubble. Like, not to say that was a horrible thing, but it felt like it dragged a little bit. Like I definitely felt like I was reading a 23-page book, where sometimes I don't. And yes, I know a 23-page comic book is nothing to read. That's not that bad, but I'm just saying, like it definitely dragged a lot for me in this issue, particularly more than most comics do. So keep that in mind. I'd probably give it a 3 out of 5. And as always, thank you guys for watching, and see you guys later.